Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. You probably remember that name, right? For years, it was all over the headlines, always tied to some kind of controversy or defiance. After he left office, he kind of faded from the world stage. You'd be forgiven for thinking his story was pretty much over. But you would be wrong. We're about to dive into the story of a politician who, it seems, you just can't get rid of. So let's jump to February 2026. All of a sudden, reports are exploding across the globe. There's been a targeted strike on a house in Tehran, and the alleged target? Iran's former president. For a hot minute, it really looked like the final violent chapter in a very turbulent career had just been written. But then, the story takes a huge turn. The reports become clear. His bodyguards were killed, but Ahmadinejad himself was alive. He survived. And this raises the one central question we're going to tackle. Why? Why, more than a decade after his presidency, is this guy, who's been officially pushed to the sidelines, still considered such a threat? To get that, we have to go way back. To really get why he's still a player today, we've got to understand how he became a political force in the first place. His story is this classic tale of rising through the ranks, and it's all fields about populist appeal and a really deep connection to the roots of the Iranian Revolution. See, this guy wasn't born into the elite, not at all. His story kicks off in a tiny village. He's the son of a blacksmith, and his family moved to the capital just hoping for a better life. This background, deeply religious, working class, it became the absolute foundation for his political identity. He was the champion of the poor, a true man of the people. And his time as a volunteer in the brutal Iran-Iraq war, well, that just solidified his street cred. You can actually see his ambition pretty early on, just by looking at his name. When his family moved to Tehran, they changed their name from Saborjian, which is tied to a humble carpet trade, to Ahmadinejad. The new name, it means something like virtuous race and pulls from one of the names of the Prophet Muhammad. This wasn't just some casual change. It was a powerful statement of religious devotion and political ambition, right from the get-go. So, how'd he climb the ladder? Well, it wasn't overnight. It was a series of steady, very strategic moves. First, he becomes a provincial governor. Then he lands the powerful job of mayor of Tehran, where he starts rolling back a lot of his moderate predecessors' reforms. And by 2005, he'd used all that momentum to win the presidency. A stunning victory, really. It made him the first non-cleric to hold that office in over 2 decades. His 2 terms as president, from 2005 to 2013, were, well, they were anything but quiet. This is when Ahmadinejad became a household name all over the world, pretty much defined by non-stop confrontation, both inside Iran and out. This right here is probably his most infamous statement, and he delivered it just a few months into his presidency. Now, people have argued about the exact translation, but the intent, it was crystal clear. It set this fiercely confrontational tone and immediately put Iran on a collision course with the West. And look, that wasn't just him talking off the cuff. His entire presidency was like a cascade of provocations. He ramped up Iran's nuclear program, ignoring international opposition. He constantly unleashed hostile rhetoric, and he actively promoted Holocaust denial. It all boiled over in 2009 when his disputed re-election sparked the Green Movement, the biggest street protests Iran had seen in decades. And if you're wondering just how central this stuff was to him, well, as he was leaving office, he reportedly pointed to promoting Holocaust denial as one of his major achievements. This wasn't just some political tactic for him. He saw it as a core part of his legacy. So you'd probably think his biggest enemies were outside Iran, right? Well, you would be wrong. The most significant battle of his entire career was fought right at home. His presidency didn't end with a quiet ride into the sunset. It ended in a bitter, very public power struggle with the very religious establishment he was supposed to be serving. The establishment even came up with a label for his whole faction, the deviant current. I mean, that's a pretty damning accusation. They were basically branded as heretics, accused of pushing a nationalist version of Islam that challenged the system. It was seen as a direct shot at the ultimate authority of the supreme leader himself. So what happens when you go toe-to-toe with the establishment like that? The result can be summed up in one number: 3. That's how many times the Guardian Council, the super powerful group that vets all candidates, disqualified him from running for president again. He tried in 2017, 2021, and again in 2024, and each time, the door was slammed shut. Officially, he was out. Okay, so this brings us right back to where we started. If he's been officially kicked out, barred from power, why does he still matter? How is he still this sort of ghost in the Iranian political machine? Well, here's the thing. You can bar a man from an election, but you can't just erase his support. That whole blacksmith's son story, it still resonates deeply. For a lot of people in Iran's poor and working classes, folks who feel left behind by the establishment and are just getting crushed by the economy, Ahmadinejad is still their guy. And in a country facing a really uncertain future, that kind of influence is something you just can't ignore. And now, we get to the ultimate irony in this whole story. According to reports, his movements had been officially restricted by the authorities. But the very attempt to take him out may have, weirdly enough, set him free. By surviving, he's not only back in the spotlight, but he's also, reportedly, free from those official controls. So where does that leave him? Is he a ghost of the past? A populist firebrand just waiting for the right moment to return? Or just an unpredictable wild card in a country that's on the edge of some major changes? The only thing we know for sure is that the story of the blacksmith's son who shook the world, well, it is far from over.